We got a packed meeting.
All right, I think we're going to get started.
Are we starting?
And
Okay, we'll get serious now.
we are going to get serious for a few
Okay.
moments. I'm going to turn it over to Sherry because it's been quite the month since our last meeting, and then we'll get going.
Since we last met in March, hundreds of Americans.
No, now she's frozen.
Each of these deaths could have been prevented. The roots of violence go deep, and they're woven into racism and poverty and a weak safety net. The easy access to firearms in the hands of people who shouldn't have them, continuation of a history of policing based on white supremacy. So I was hoping that we could take a few seconds together in our virtual space that we have to honor the lives lost to gun violence, offer some compassion to the injured, the traumatized, and show some compassion for and empathy for their families and friends who are also victims of this other epidemic that's facing our country right now. So if we just could have a few seconds of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Really important thoughts. So on that note, we have some new people here today. If we can show the whole gallery. I know Olivia's new to our group, and I see a few other names I don't necessarily recognize, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's your first meeting. But if it is, kind of give us a wave here. Murray, I didn't think I recognized you, but I wasn't sure. And Miles, I've seen your name, obviously, because we were giving you a little flack about your name. But great. We are so glad to have new members join us all the time, especially moving forward. It's just going to be that kind of a year. We thought this was our down year, and guess what? Not so much. Lots is happening, and lots needs our support. First, I always like to start with a thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everybody who showed up to the paper drive. I didn't know there was quite that much toilet paper and paper towel out there, but community sharing, super excited to get the donations. Who knew that SNAP would not pay for toilet paper? I mean, that was an eye opener for all of us. We'll definitely be repeating that and continuing our connection with community sharing in the next few months. Sort of watch out for that. We'll give you a little break, and then we're going to start that back up and try to support them again. So thank you for that. Thank you to everybody who worked with the democracy team on the phone banking and flooding the phone lines. I'm sure many of you, like me, went right to voicemail, but that was not a bad thing. That meant that the phones were burning up. So thank you for calling our senators, everybody who's doing, I mean, we're into the 80s now on the 100 days. Who knew, you know? And if you've been following that along, lots of easy ways to impact what's going on in our world and our government. So thank you so much. Now, for those of you, most everybody I'm sure saw the notice and the change. Tonight's meeting was supposed to be the beginning of our series on training in race, equity, and inclusion, and hopefully moving forward to having some working groups. Unfortunately, our speaker had personal reasons, some health reasons that she was unable to come. We have a wonderful speaker coming from the League of Conservation Voters, and also through the statewide Indivisible program, you can access a pretty incredible series of race, equity, and inclusion trainings. I think John's prepared to throw the link up on the screen. It's going to be 4 sessions, pretty much every other month going forward. Sherry and I can't remember if Sarah was able to go to it or not, but Sherry and I were able to do a preview of the training they ran for swim leaders. Sarah is nodding her head, so she was there as well. Awesome presenters, an incredibly proactive, positive, inclusive approach. I don't know how else to describe it. It acknowledges the work we have to do without implying you should feel guilty because you have this work that you have to do. You know, we all know we have this work to do. We all know we've been raised with attitudes and enculturated in ways that we're often not even aware of. And so I highly recommend signing up for the first one and see if you like it. And I think you'll continue to attend because it's a pretty amazing series. There we go. So it's in your newsletter, the links to sign up. It's on our member Facebook page. We'll be reposting it just so you don't have to dig for it. But just watch for your follow-up newsletter too. And like I say, it's well worth the time that you will be investing. So that all said, I'm going to turn it back to Sherry to introduce our speaker.
I'm very happy to introduce our speaker tonight, Ethan Petzold. Ethan is the Southeast Michigan Regional Coordinator on a political and outreach team for the Michigan League of Conservation Voters. He's a proud graduate of Central Michigan University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in political science and public and nonprofit administration with a minor in leadership. He holds a certified nonprofit professional credential through the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance. At 14 years old, he volunteered to work on a political campaign, and he saw firsthand the positive difference that he can make through advocacy and organizing work, and he's been doing it ever since. Throughout the years, Ethan has worked on electoral politics and nonprofit organizations to make a difference for those who are too often left behind by our government. And most recently, he has managed competitive state legislative races in Oakland, Wayne, and Monroe counties. So I'll turn it over right now to Ethan Petzold. Welcome to Indivisible Huron Valley.
Thank you for that introduction, Sherry. I'm really glad to be with everybody. I'm going to share my screen so you can all see my slides, and we'll get started. Like Sherry mentioned, my name is Ethan Petzold. I'm the Southeast Michigan Regional Coordinator for the Michigan League of Conservation Voters. I've actually primarily been working in Oakland, Wayne County with the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, but we have volunteers that are active in those counties as well as in Macomb and Washtenaw that we work with every single day in this region. So first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about what I want to talk to you about and go over tonight. We're going to talk about what MLCV, which is the acronym for the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, is and what we do. We'll discuss the current landscape in Lansing and what needs to be done to lay the groundwork to get big things accomplished on climate once we have a conservation majority. And lastly, we'll discuss the actions that we can take at the local, state, and national level right now, as well as tools that we offer through MLCV that you can track and keep informed on what's going on in Lansing. So what is the Michigan League of Conservation Voters? We fit in a special place within the environmental movement because we're the largest nonpartisan political organization in Michigan with land, air, and water at the center of our work. We do this on a state level by advancing policies, mobilizing voters, doing everything we can to ensure we're electing the right state leaders, and by holding those leaders accountable. We build our work around 4 key pillars that you can see on the screen right now. And the first is we advocate. Regardless of which party's in power, you can count on us to be in Lansing and make sure that we're fighting for policies that protect our health, our safety, and our Michigan way of life. The second is mobilizing. When bad policies move forward and when good ideas need support, we're always there to mobilize voters across the state to speak out where it'll have the biggest impact. The third is we elect. When elections are held around the state, we make sure to vet the candidates and inform voters on who the right leaders would be to protect our environment. And the last is accountability. The thing that I love about the Michigan League of Conservation Voters most is that when the election's over and the media is not paying attention anymore, we're still keeping score, keeping track of the votes, and holding elected officials accountable and mobilizing people on those issues. So our organization is actually divided into 4 different organizations that are all the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, but they work collectively to make sure that we can have the biggest impact possible. So the first is the Michigan LCV Education Fund, which is a 501c3 educational nonprofit. And so it engages elected officials, business leaders, different residents to take action on land, air, and water issues facing our state. So we use it to conduct nonpartisan civic engagement work and citizen organizing on specific policy issues. It's also the branch of our organization that we use to most focus on educating and equipping citizens with the tools they need to take action, informing people how they can make a difference in their community. We also use it to register voters and educate citizens about their voting rights. So our education fund does a lot of work in the city of Detroit in particular, at making sure that people who don't vote in every election in areas that are disproportionately impacted by climate, to make sure that they're informed with how they can vote, when they can vote, and what the stakes are. The second is just Michigan LCV, and it's a 501c4 nonprofit. And through that, we can advocate about certain issues before the legislature. So we endorse pro-conservation candidates and educate voters about legislators' records on different things. So this is where you would see if there's an issue going on in the legislature and we're trying to let people know that their representative's undecided and you need to contact them, and we are running phone banks or sending out mailers that are just saying, call your representative about X, Y, and Z. That would be from the Michigan LCV arm. Then we have Michigan LCV PAC. And our PAC is what directly supports the campaigns of conservation champions in the legislature or candidates. So that's, if a candidate gets a check from Michigan LCV, it's from the Michigan League of Conservation Voters PAC, as well as if we coordinate any campaign or election efforts with them. And then the last is the Conservation Voters of Michigan PAC, which it sounds very similar to the one I just talked about, but this is different because it supports our candidates in ways that are independent to coordinating with them. So if there's a mailer or an ad that goes out that advocating for a specific candidate doesn't know about it, it's totally separate. That would be from our Conservation Voters of Michigan PAC. We mostly do that. There's different contribution limits for regular PACs. So that's why we separate those so we can, most effectively impact important races. So what do we do? So most of our work can be summed up in this cycle of accountability chart. We start by vetting candidates running for public office and making endorsements of people who are environmental champions. From there, we support candidates and we work to mobilize voters on the ground to support those candidates. After the election, we educate the public and lawmakers about the important issues that are being taken up by the legislature, and we hold those elected officials accountable on their votes and on their statements. And I always like to say, when I mention accountability, I feel like it has a very negative connotation, but it really encompasses a lot of different things. So if a legislator is sticking their neck out on a critical issue, we want to do positive accountability work to make sure constituents know what a great representative they have. If somebody is undecided about something, what that looks like is, mobilizing people that care about the environment in the district to pressure them on the issue. And then, of course, sometimes it is holding their feet to the fire. The pillars of our work can be put into 5 different basic pillars. All of them are essential to addressing climate change. And so when you put them all together, they're all intertwined with the issue of addressing climate change. The first is clean air. I know I'm speaking to the choir on a lot of these issues, but clean air is something that we should know that we can breathe and be safe, but so many communities don't. And our state and federal governments don't hold bad actors and polluters accountable. There's a lot of people in the legislature that also just don't understand the impact that chronic air pollution has on people's lives, from asthma attacks, cancer. It's something that requires action that, quite frankly, a lot of people in the Michigan legislature in particular just don't understand and don't care about. Second is good government. Sometimes this throws people for a loop because it's not directly environmental, but Michigan ranks last in terms of transparency and good governance. Despite a clear consensus of a need for reforms, voters support reforms that expand transparency and accountability and make it easier to vote. It's really been tough to get any of those measures passed through Lansing. Again, we have very outdated election infrastructure, but anything that Michigan LCV or environmental groups advocate for can only be done if there's open and fair elections and transparent government that holds the special interests, the big utilities, the people that are influencing our lawmakers in bad ways that hurt the environment. Unless there's accountability, transparency, then we can't effectively get our work done. So that's why we care about this work. We want more people engaged in the process, people who are disproportionately impacted by climate, and we want to make sure that things are exposed in Lansing, that there's transparency. The next is healthy Great Lakes. I think being in Michigan and being the Michigan League of Conservation Voters more than any other state chapter in the country, we have a special obligation to this one. Whether it's Lake Erie's algae problems or E. coli in Lake Michigan, or you're worried about Line 5 in the Straits of Mackinac, it's something that a lot of people are thinking about, and it affects a lot of people's lives. So we sit on 90% of the nation's fresh water, and we do really feel an obligation to do specific work on protecting our Great Lakes. You'll see a lot of work that the Michigan League of Conservation Voters does, particularly on Line 5 would be our most high profile one. But those local issues like the algae in Lake Erie and other things is something that we always keep our eye on and that we're working with local leaders on the ground to address. The fourth is parks and public lands. We've really worked hard to preserve natural parks and natural areas in Michigan. But in recent years, a lot of protections for sand dunes have been dismantled. There's been people in Lansing that have attacked science-based management for our public lands, and there's been increased pressure to have oil and gas development. So we're trying to push back against those attacks and make sure our public lands are protected. And last, but certainly not least, is safe drinking water. We know that everyone deserves access to safe drinking water that's free from lead, PFAS contamination, other toxins, but something that is a huge issue in Michigan. We know that very well with what happened in Flint, the importance of safe drinking water and how we can't take that for granted. We also know that pollution in our waters measured by parts per billion. So there's really no room for error when we're protecting our environment and protecting the water that we drink. So that's kind of an overview of who we are, what we do, and what issues we focus on. But going into what's up with Lansing and what we can do to change things, everyone knows that Lansing is kind of a mess, especially from an environmental perspective. And that's probably the biggest bad news is we do not have a conservation majority in either the House or the Senate. So the opportunities to address the climate crisis are quite rare. For Michigan to reach 100% clean energy by 2050, which is what we need to properly address the climate crisis, we have to aggressively decarbonize in every economic sector. Even though there might be some legislators that we talk to about that, there's still so many barriers that stand in the way of us getting anything substantial done. The first barrier is the outsized lobbying influence of the utilities like DTE and consumers. It's tremendous how much money they pour into key legislators' campaign coffers, how hard they push back when we're trying to fight for certain things that would help the environment. And it's something that affects both sides of the aisle. Democrats and Republicans both get a lot of money from DTE and consumers, so it's a huge factor. The second is opposition or reluctance from other influential stakeholders. On the Republican side, there's business groups that don't like some of the measures that environmentalists advocate for. And, on things like Line 5, there are some labor unions that support that pipeline. So it's a challenge because there's groups on both sides of the aisle that are very influential. It's hard to get everyone on the same page sometimes. And then the third thing is the lack of pro-climate action champions in key legislative leadership positions. We have a lot of conservation champions in the legislature. Not all of them are in positions where they can affect the issue most. They're not in the leadership positions that decide what votes come to the floor, or they're not in the positions where they're chairing key energy committees or key committees. So it's really important that we address those different factors. And all those factors will be true after the redistricting process takes place. And even if, Democrats take back the majority, because like I mentioned earlier, all three of these things are players on both sides. And that's why it's important as a nonpartisan organization to hold both sides accountable and make sure we're advocating with everyone. Some of the good news on this is that the public is increasingly on our side. It's also great news that we have strong leadership from Governor Whitmer and Attorney General Nessel at the state level. and that we have a transformational opportunity at the federal level with President Biden's American Jobs Plan, which I'll touch on a little bit more later. As you can see in this graph, concerns on the effects of climate change are actually growing with members of both parties. The poll that this graph references found that 75% of Americans believe they've seen the effects of climate change. 2/3 believe it's an issue of a personal issue of importance. And 82% of Americans believe that government, businesses, and individuals need to be doing more to address the climate crisis. We also find that 66% of voters support a 100% clean renewable energy economy, which is not something that it's a fairly recent trend to have that much widespread support for addressing climate. And there was actually a time where Michigan was a national leader in environmental conservation, and things that we, I think, now take for granted, like returning pop cans and bottles. Back in the 70s, that was a brand new thing, and it was model legislation for other states. So there's a couple of things that we need to do to make sure that Michigan gets back our groove as a conservation leader in the country. First, we need to make sure we're leveling the playing field. Like I mentioned earlier, good government's a core pillar of our work. And it's because of the influence of the major utilities and other groups that we can't get some of these things done. So we want to expand voting rights, increase government transparency and accountability, and those things together will make it easier to pass key environmental legislation. Next, we need strong ground-up coalitions that engage labor and business groups and encompass environmental justice at its core. I think when we bring different groups together, such as programs like the Blue-Green Alliance that does work, particularly bridging environmental and labor causes and concerns together to figure out solutions, is really important. The more that we can do to collaborate with other stakeholders that might be concerned about some of the things that we need to do to protect our environment, it's really important to bring them to the table. And lastly, we need to win a conservation majority in 2022. So typically I would go into, maybe specific district, around the groups I'm speaking to that we have an opportunity to elect environmental champions. But with independent redistricting commission still working through the end of this year, we'll have to see how that all shakes out and where our best opportunities are. But we do have something called the candidate pipeline that no matter what the district lines look like will be key to ensuring a conservation majority. We're trying to identify people who are already involved in climate work to recruit, train, and support in their runs for public office, especially the state legislature. We know that if we engage with candidates before the field's all set, before everyone's filed, and they're passionate about the climate crisis long before they ran for office, they're more likely to be with us to stick their neck out against the powerful special interests and be with us when the going gets tough. And that's where I think a lot of members of Indivisible come in. As I've talked to different Indivisible groups, I've always said, if you know someone that would be great to run for office, that wants to learn more, get more resources, definitely connect them with me or anyone else at our organization. And we can help them and talk to them about going through those steps. And then next, I just want to go through some of the tools that we have to track what's going on in the legislature. The first is our hot list. At the beginning of each week, we send stakeholder groups, including statewide Indivisible does receive the hot list, and every legislator. And it'll kind of go over everything that is upcoming the legislature, any bill that we think might get a committee hearing, anything that might be coming to the floor that has the potential to be scored on our legislative scorecard, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we compile it every week with the advice of our organization, the Michigan Environmental Council, West Michigan Environmental Action Council, Sierra Club, Ecology Center, Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice, and other different environmental groups. And it's kind of seen as a preview for the upcoming week. At the end of the week, we send something called the Capital Catch-Up, which just summarizes everything that's happened on each of those issues in the legislature that week. But the most accessible tool for anyone anywhere to access to see how their legislators going on key environmental issues is our digital accountability suite, or our scorecard. And that link, michiganlcv.org/get-your-scorecard, is where you can look up how your legislator is voting. It updates lawmaker scores on environmental issues in real time, so you can stay up to date and get engaged when they're voting the wrong way on issues. It's not only helpful for our community members, but it also adds an additional layer of transparency to keep them accountable. When you go inside that digital accountability suite, you can see exactly which votes were taken up on the environment. It explains them, it explains our position on them, how your representative voted, whether that vote was a pro-conservation or anti-conservation vote. And the cumulative of all those votes are used to create their score on a scale to 0 to 100%. As you can see in this screenshot that was taken sometime last year, Mike Shirkey's score was 50%, so still failing grade. But his lifetime score is 25%. So the lifetime score is every single vote they've ever taken during their time in the legislature. And then there's a score for that particular legislative session. And the last thing I just wanted to talk about is what we can do right now and what pressing issues are happening at the federal, state, and local level. And the first is the American Jobs Plan. As you all probably know, President Biden's proposed a sweeping infrastructure plan, and it includes the largest expansion of green infrastructure and green jobs in American history. And that's why we're calling on our congressional leaders to swiftly pass this recovery package, but also make sure those elements of the green infrastructure and the green jobs elements are included. We particularly like aspects such as putting the U.S. on a path to 100% clean energy by including investments in our electricity grid, transportation, and buildings with reliable, affordable clean energy. We like that there's equity because it ensures at least 40% of benefits go to the communities that need it most. And then we also love that it incentivizes high quality, good paying union jobs, especially in the clean energy and manufacturing sectors. And it does give support to communities who were historically reliant on things like oil, gas, and coal to help transition them to clean energy. So we have a letter, and I will share this in the chat after. So if you or someone you know is a state or local official, we're asking them to sign on to a letter to our congressional leaders, urging them to make sure that the infrastructure package that gets through both the House and the Senate gets to President Biden's desk, that it includes those elements of the green infrastructure and green jobs elements. So I'll put that letter in the chat when I'm done presenting, so you can look it over and you can share that around. And definitely let us know if anyone that you know did sign, because we'd love to thank them for their work. And that letter is being compiled with national or state and local leaders all across the country and will be delivered next week to the congressional leaders. And the deadline for that is Friday at 5 o'clock. So I know it's very soon. The next thing, which is something that we're focused a lot on right now, is ensuring a bill passes through the Michigan House Energy Committee. That's critical for cleaning up our air and protecting our health. It's House Bill 4236, which involves a distributed generation cap on rooftop solar. For those of you who don't know, rooftop solar has been a huge success in Michigan as technologies become more affordable. And customers who install solar panels on their home or business not only generate power for their own homes, but they can also hook up their solar panels to the energy grid and sell that excess power. It's a big reason that a lot of people decide they can afford to get solar panels because they know it'll pay off in the long run. But in the last energy bill that passed the Michigan legislature, the major utility companies set in place an arbitrary 1% cap on the amount of customers that can hook their rooftop solar installations to the energy grid and sell that excess power. That cap's been reached by Michigan's largest utility companies like DTE and Consumers Energy, which means that any additional customers who want to generate their own energy through rooftop solar and sell their excess power are prohibited by law from being able to. So we want to make sure that this passes because it would remove that artificial cap and open the door for more Michiganders to get solar panels on their homes. We spend more time not addressing that issue and getting rid of the cap, that the solar and clean energy sectors and the creation of clean energy jobs in Michigan will really take a huge step back. The reason we're focused on this bill in particular is it's bipartisan and can pass the floor. There's actually more Republican sponsors than Democratic sponsors on it right now. So it's very bipartisan, and it's something that would be really important for our environment. But DT and consumers are really fighting hard to keep it from even leaving the committee. So for over a month, we've been working in the districts of key members of the Energy Committee to make sure that constituents who are pro-environment know about this issue, know that it's going to be before the Energy Committee, and make sure they're calling their representative to make sure that they vote correctly and they advocate for it being brought up for a vote on the committee. And that's something that I would encourage everyone to take action on. Again, I think you all know the importance of contacting our lawmakers. We know that it does have an impact, and especially if your representative is on the House Energy Committee in Oakland County, that's Mari Manoogian. She's on the Energy Committee. It's really important that people make their voices heard on this issue. And then the other thing is making your voice heard at a legislative coffee hour. So we've been doing a couple things on this issue. In those key districts, we've been doing digital ads, mailers. We've been doing a lot of phone banks. Actually, right now, there's people phone banking and patching people through to their representatives' offices. But another thing we've been doing is trying to pack legislative coffee hours and town halls to make sure questions are being asked about this issue, to make sure that these representatives on the House Energy Committee understand this is something that people care about. So on Monday, April 19th at 5:30 p.m., there is one of those legislative coffee hours. So if you are available at that time, you can private message me in the chat, your name, your email, your phone number, and I would love to get you signed up for that. Get you the Zoom link, some of our sample questions, so we can make sure that this issue is elevated again on Monday. And then the last thing, I know I've talked for a long time, so I do Southeast Michigan, and our big focus areas this year have been Detroit, Dearborn, and Oakland County. And since I'm talking to people here in Oakland County, I wanted to talk about our work that we do here. So Oakland County is really, I talked about the accountability chart earlier and how we try and identify people, elect them, and then get things done. And it's almost a textbook example of that in Oakland County. You all know that for a long time, there wasn't a conservation majority on the county commission. The county executive, the old one, was not, a huge proponent of some of the things that we're fighting for. But, we saw an opportunity to really change the makeup of our elected officials in Oakland County and make it so there's more people that wanted to address the climate crisis. So what we did was we worked with other community leaders and other organizations like the Sierra Club, Clean Water Action, the NAACP, to develop something called the Climate Jobs and Justice Platform. From there, we had meetings with all the candidates running for county commission that wanted to meet with us. We told them about the platform, and we got a ton of them to agree with the elements of it. And we supported those candidates and did things to help get them elected. Now we have a majority that agrees with this Climate Jobs and Justice Platform on the county commission, and we have a county executive that supports the elements of our platform. So we're working with them to implement it. On March 25th, the county commission actually voted to approve a full-time sustainability officer, which will help make sure that we're addressing the climate crisis in Oakland County. And they're really going to shepherd through the goals that County Executive Coulter set for net zero carbon emissions from county operations by 2030. And then by 2050, he wants to get to that goal of net carbon zero emissions countywide. And so, it's something that, while there's not a specific thing that's being taken up right now, that I'd love to work with Indivisible and people individually on when there is important actions to be taken on this, to make sure that we're having people show up for citizen comments in support of these measures, so that people know that people in Oakland County do support this, do want these actions taken. With that, does anyone have any questions about anything I went over?
If you have a question for Ethan, maybe you could go into the chat and just say question. Marianne and Don have their hand up.
Yeah, the question I have, the 1% cap that they want to remove, if somebody has solar power and they sell it back to the power companies, let's assume it's 1 kilowatt hour. Do the companies then sell that for more money or less?
So what happens is there's a set rate that they buy back the energy from homeowners and businesses, and it's used for the grid. And so DTE and Consumers purchases it and then uses it for, power for everyone. The reason they don't like that is because they're not the ones producing the energy, so they make less money off of it, is essentially their opposition. But it's really one of the tools that we have in our toolbox right now to make sure we're expanding the clean energy sector in Michigan under the current confines. But yeah, so there's a set rate, and I don't know exactly what that rate is. That I can check in and look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry has her hand up.
Yes, I love the hot list and at the beginning of the week and the capital catch up at the end. That's making my wheels turn about what we might do with our own group. But you said the hot list for these issues that SWIM has that?
Yes, that's available through SWIM. So I would contact, I believe it might go to Paula. So I would contact Paula.
Paula, okay, all righty.
Yeah.
And the one other thing too, do you know specifically who on the energy committee is in a place where they might be persuadable and we can do some contacting of them on this 1% cap?
Yeah, so the 3 reps that we need to move on our side that are currently undecided: Rep Mari Manoogian in the 40th district here in Oakland County, Rep Ranjiv Puri, who's in Canton and Western Wayne County, and then the other is Representative Jim Hodsma, which is in near Battle Creek. So those are the 3 reps that LCV is doing the most work to persuade on the issue right now.
Are these Democrats?
They're all Democrats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ellie's next, I think.
I don't know how on topic this is, but I'm in high school and I recently started a club at my school to make us a Michigan green school again. So I was wondering if there was anything like we could do as a club to help.
That's actually a really good question. So there's different things that we've worked with schools on. If you could private message me your email, I'll email you and we can set some time up to talk about that. And I can bring in some other people who have worked on that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
We love that we have actually in the last several months dramatically lowered our average age in our group because people like Olivia and Ellie, and we would love to push out into those communities because that's the future. Those are the people that we really need to be engaging with. So this is awesome. Thank you, Ellie. It's a great question. I think I have Steve and Janet next.
This isn't really a question, but it's just a comment. We recently, like last summer, got solar panels put on our house on the roof. And so we are in that 1%. I guess we got in under the cutoff where we do get to quote unquote sell our extra energy back to DTE. But they have a very convoluted, very difficult kind of equation that they use. And it kind of works out to being that whatever they consider a unit, we have to give them 3 units for them to give us back 1 unit. And that got passed through the, it's like the Energy Commission.
The Public Service Commission.
Yeah, Public Service Commission. They went, I guess DTE went first and went before the commission and said, we need to do this not 1 for 1. We need to do it like 1 for 3 kind of a thing using this formula for whatever reason, not in the public's best interest, obviously.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. And I'm glad you mentioned the Public Service Commission because you can call the Public Service Commission and give your opinions just like you can your legislator. A lot of people don't know that. So I would encourage when there are things coming up before the Public Service Commission, if there's people in Indivisible that would like to call about that issue, I would definitely encourage that because they make decisions and rules on things over and beyond what the governor can do, over and beyond what the legislature can do. And the governor and the legislature get a lot of calls, and that's important. But you all might be one of the only ones calling the Public Service Commission ahead of an important vote.
I believe, I'm not positive, but I believe that the energy companies have to go to the Energy Commission to get their proposed rate hikes approved also.
Yeah, so that's something in Michigan law. The Michigan Public Service Commission has to approve all rates. So when I mentioned, the amount of rates that the grid, that's set by the Public Service Commission, but even just our normal rates, if you don't have solar panels, it all has to be approved by the Public Service Commission. A lot of power, actually.
All good information most of us did not know. So great to learn new things. Ethan, that was so informative. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ethan. We really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, and stepping up on such short notice with such a great presentation is really, really appreciated. And you have found soulmates. This group is your soulmate. So
Looking
Well,
forward
please
to
keep-
partnering with you.
yes, we do get stuff from Swim, but please always feel free to reach out to us directly because we tend to have a very active eco community. In fact, as we're going to move into the business meeting, a number of our members organized Eco Huron Valley, which has become a very, very active group in our area and has splintered off into its separate organization, but there's a lot of crossover. So like I say,
One more question.
you've got willing helpers here.
I see. Somebody else has a
Great.
question.
Oh, okay, was somebody waving
one-
badly? Done.
One more. Yeah. Is there a position on nuclear energy with this group?
Well, let me actually get back to you on that, and I'll send that to Sherry.
Okay.
I actually, one thing I just started about a month and a half ago, so I'm actually pretty new to the Michigan League Conservation Voters, so still learning our stances on some things, but I will check in on that.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We have a newsletter that goes
Great.
out to recap this meeting. So if you can get that information back, we can send it out in the newsletter and everybody will see it.
Great, and I'm putting in the chat right now, I just put the every action link to contact your lawmaker about
Perfect.
that solar energy bill. And then I'll put right in now the digital scorecard link. And I will check on those questions. And I also saw some messages about people who want to go to that town hall. So I will be sending you an email shortly.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And I'll actually also put my contact information just in the chat. So feel free to reach out at any time.
I'm sure we will. You might regret that, but I'm sure you will hear from many of the members. But we're going to move on because part of the topic was what can we do locally? And we actually have two events that are supportive of these values that are coming up right here in our community. So I'm going to let Lori talk first about the Eco HV project that's coming up.
Well, first of all, in case nobody's heard, I know a lot of you are members, but in case nobody's heard of us, we're the Environmental Council of Huron Valley, Eco HV for short. And Holly's going to put up in the chat website, our Facebook page, and my email in case anybody has any questions. But basically our group, our focus is on sustainable living, recycling, environmental concerns, and we just want to bring awareness, we educate, then we take action. Our group started in the fall of 2019 and includes me, Jeff, our leader, Tiffany, Sarah Moore, and Holly Nickerson. If you want to be a member, you have to sign up on the website, and then you'll get the emails with all the information and Zoom link for the meetings, stuff like that. Our meetings are the third Monday of every month, and our next meeting is next Monday at 7. Hopefully the summer meetings will be outside. In the garden, we're having a garden. That is our big project for the summer. It's for the Eco members, the Eco HV members to share and enjoy. And it's going to be all native plants. And our friend Miles Davis is on there somewhere. He's going to be leading the garden with Bob Lippert and Sarah Moore. And it's going to be all native plants. So people can come and you can donate plants if you want to come plant something. Sarah's coordinating all that. And then at the end of the season, we can share them, take them home to our own garden. It's really nice, the lot we picked out. It's next to Hebner's Canoe Rental. It's actually on his personal property. We're breaking ground on Tuesday, the 20th. That morning, we're going to have a rototiller and some shovels and rakes. If anybody wants to join us, just sign up through our website, and then you'll get the email with all the information. And if you have any questions about the garden, because I know I'm just going through this quick, you can email me. Holly's going to put my email on there too. It's lgarner216@yahoo.com. Saturday, 24th from 1 to 3, we're having a meet and greet where you can come and learn all about our group, meet us. Action items there where you can. It's going to be on sheets, so make sure you bring your phone or whatever so you can take pictures of them. Environmentally friendly, saving paper and all that. So we'll have a lot of action items that you can do, and we'll also have some crafts and stuff for the kids. It's not the actual crafts. Cat hair all over. It's not the actual crafts, it's just the instructions for them. But again, you can take the pictures and also you can bring your clean, dry styrofoam to that meet and greet, and we will recycle that for you. There's a place in Livingston County that does it. And did I forget anything?
That's what I remember you were going to say. So I think you got it.
Good.
But yeah, go to their website. It's an awesome group. And they're looking at, if we start up Milford Memories, trying to keep that as green as possible and managing
Oh,
the
that's
waste from, events like that happen in our beautiful park downtown. And so working really locally to try to make this as green a community as possible.
Yeah, that's something I forgot to mention too. Is it Avalon family? They did Milford Memories a couple years ago. They were in charge of all the recycling. They set up a program and everything. It was just awesome. And they're going to do that again this year, assuming Milford Memories is still on.
Yes. So the
They're
direction.
going to need a lot of volunteers and stuff too, and all the information's on our website for that.
Definitely a direction we want to take our community.
Yeah, they're really great.
And the other event we have going is is this the second one, Denise?
Yes, second annual.
So I'll let Denise talk about it, but a little different direction to raise awareness. So go, Denise.
Okay, I guess I'm on. So hi, everybody. Denise Forrest here. I am currently the interim president of Huron Valley Council for the Arts. And last year, EcoHV and Huron Valley Council for the Arts and CUB, the Universalist Church in Brighton, and the Crossroads Sierra Club got together to collaborate on an art show featuring our changing climate. This year, we've added a music component, so we have visual and musical art. And unfortunately, we were so geeked to have an in-person show last April for the month of April. But of course, like everybody else, we had to quickly pivot to an online only show, and it was quite successful. So this year, we are doing both a virtual and an in-person show. And so this, the goal of this art show really is to explore the Earth's changing climate through art and music. And it's really a call to action, but through a visual and musical arts vehicle. So oftentimes artists are, on the precipice and cutting edge of social change. And so that's this kind of show. And it's really, really quite amazing. So we have 51 artists this year, and we have a combination of youth and adult categories. And as I said, you can view the show online and in person. And I would suggest really that you take a look at both the visual slideshow and the in-person show, because of course everything's a little better in person. But we have some artists as far away as Tehran. So some of the artwork that we have and the online part we don't have in the in-person part. And as well, we have the artist statements and kind of what drew them to this art show and, what their passions are and, impetus as far as our changing climate and global warming. So you can visit the show on our HVCA website, which is HuronValleyArts.org. After I talk, I can pop that in the chat.
That's great. Thank you.
And we are located in Highland, across from the Highland Fire Station. It's 205 West Livingston Road, and it is the old Highland Library. Raise your hand if you've been there in person to see art. Yay! And if you haven't, you got to get there. The show is amazing. And it's a little bit interactive. We have some QR code with some climate change statements on the wall. And if you scan the code, you can get all the information you'll need as how you can help reverse this awful climate change. So go on the website, you can view that show and you can get all kind of other information. And also this Friday evening, April 16th, we will have our Zoom meeting and online award ceremony. We had an anonymous individual donate cash prizes. So we have 3 prizes in the adult category and 3 in the youth category as well. And we also have a special guest lecturer. We have Margaret Lansing, and she is the Chief of Information Services for NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And she's going to be addressing the impact of climate change on our Great Lakes. So it should be informative and riveting. And since this is in conjunction with an arts show, she's going to also talk about some of the visual and artistic research that's being used with our scientists. So again, this exhibit is a passionate collaboration with our groups, Huron Valley Council for the Arts, EcoHV, School of Rock, the Crossroads Group of the Sierra Club, and the Community Unitarian Universalists of Brighton. So you can also register for Friday evening's awards ceremony and lecture on HVCA or HuronValleyArts.org. So thanks for giving me time to plug this. You've probably seen some of our posters circulating. So please join us Friday, and the show will be, I think I got to give you the hours of the show. The show will be up until April 30th. And we have hours Wednesday and Friday from 10 to 3, Saturday from 10 to 2. And you can also come in by appointment. So we really usually don't have any problem with adhering to the 25 or less individuals in the gallery. So please join us. Thank you.
That was great. I think it's really fun to see how many different ways we can raise awareness and take everybody's different skills and gifts in order to do that. So that's really exciting. One thing we like to do, we're going to move into our team reports real quick, but what we like to do at the start of that is kind of review our wonderful website. So those of you who are new are aware of what you can glean off of the website. So John's going to throw that up and real fast go through that.
Yeah, so this is our website, and it's been mentioned a couple times that we have a whole bunch of events tied to the first 100 days of the Biden administration. There's a few places you can get that information. If you just go to our website, which is indivisiblehv.com, I'll paste all the links in the chat. If you just go to that website, it'll pop up right away, right on the front page, and show you what to do. And then right now we have matching for donations. So if you want to donate to Indivisible, if you go to our website, up at the top, there's a donate button, and National Indivisible is going to match any donation made between April 5th and May 30th. So
up to $500, and we've managed to do it every time they've offered this. So
yeah, that's exciting. And then if you want to know any events that are going on, sponsored by Indivisible, if you go to the calendar button, the red ones, you can see there's a little key up here, but the red ones are the 100 days of action. And then our meetings are on here as well. And then every Saturday, we actually have a Saturday morning discussion where we just kind of talk about things that are going on. It's a pretty good time. And yeah, that's basically our website. If you're looking for another place to get the 100 days of action, we also have Instagram, which Ellie Butkovich has been managing, and we've got already 54 followers. So if you want to join there and check out what to do. We also have our Indivisible HV Twitter account, so you can get updates there. Our Facebook page, we have them there. And then if you missed a meeting like this one, you can go to our YouTube page. So I'll post those in the chat.
awesome. Lots of ways to know what we do.
Yeah. And then
No excuses.
yeah. And then one last thing, I know we've been talking a lot about how to contact your congressperson. Causes.com, if you go here, there's a bunch of topical things. And if you want to contact somebody about a particular item, you can find the thing that sticks out to you, and then say whether or not they have different options on a particular topic, but below it'll tell you some information about it. And then you can say whether you support it or oppose it. And then it'll pop up with this window. If you just check this box, anything you type in here will go to your House representative and both of your senators. So that's a real quick way to contact your representative. And then if you go up to the top right here, you can individually contact each one of those people for a specific subject. That's all I have.
That's great, though. And the nice thing about causes is if you sign up for alerts, then you will get an alert that your representative, just a minute, I see your hand, Connie.
All right.
That your representative just voted on such and such, or is working on such and such. So you'll get alerts that they may key you into something that you want to make contact about. Yes, Connie.
I wanted to mention that the Take Action button, the Legislative Action Committee has been posting weekly scripts on the Michigan legislature actions. So right now we're doing kind of a series on the anti-voting. We just started this last week, the anti-voting bills. And also that 1% cap, there's a script in there where we call the Republicans on the Energy Committee. So check that out also on the weekly basis.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, because these are wonderful scripts and they go up on our Facebook page. But to be honest, the website is really the best way to go and get the biggest bang for your buck if you've got 10 minutes or 5 minutes to spend to figure out what's going on out there. So,
and again, just to reiterate, that's if you go to our website and then click Take Action.
Yeah. Yeah, these are wonderful. So thank you, Connie, for reminding us about those. Moving on, let's see. Back to our Legislative Action Committee. Our wonderful Legislative Action Committee has set up a series of workshops coming up that I think are going to speak to an issue that has all of us concerned. So I'm going to let Holly talk a little bit about that.
Okay, hi everybody. First, I want to tell everyone that most of you, I think, know Brian Watson, who is our messaging guru. We all know. So Brian has joined our team, and so another reason to come to our workshops. You know, they'll be extra well done. So if you bear with me, I actually have a script, and I'm going to read you the description because I'm very proud to present these workshops. So the Legislative Action Committee is working to present a 3-part series on far-right politics in Michigan. The first session, which is next Wednesday, the 21st at 7 p.m., will address the history of this behavior, which is not new to Michigan. Extremism has a rich history in our state. That look at our history acknowledges that extremist behavior is not always as apparent and visual as the militia we see so much of today. The intent of the workshop is to face the challenge, recognize the effects, and progress forward. Then, the second session, May 19th, we welcome Dr. Amy Cooter. She's a senior lecturer on sociology at Vanderbilt University. She has been researching militia groups and people who join them for the last 10 years. Unlike others, Amy does not solely rely on research materials compiled, but rather observes group members in their individual cultures and asks them directly about their motives and perceptions through interviews and surveys. So we are so pleased that she can join us as our guest speaker to start off the second session sharing her knowledge. And then the session will open up with ample time for audience to ask questions. This is a real chance to have a conversation with an expert on this subject. So you can check out Dr. Cooter before then, if you like, at amycooter.com/research and see all about her. Lastly, on June 16th, we'll take all the information we have gathered to work on our messaging in order to continue forward with our values and ideals, rebuilding and protecting Michigan and those that call it home. So, as I said, we're very excited to offer this series, so please join us. You can register via Facebook or our website that Jonathan was just talking about. And if you register on our website, you'll notice there's a donate button attached if you feel so inclined. And as Jonathan mentioned, right now they're being matched. These donations help Indivisible continue to bring you these experienced, knowledgeable speakers. So all the workshops are still Zoom meetings, and all 3 start at 7 p.m. If you have any questions, you can email the LAC email address on the registration page, and a committee member will get back to you. Thank you, and we hope to see you there next week.
Thank you, Holly. I mean, I think this is exciting. It's something we really, really need. you know, we had people in our community as part of the posse that attacked the governor. So
It's very timely and
very
we're-
timely, and it's very local for us.
Right.
Very, very local for us. So please, please, they've done a lot of hard work on this, and I think it will be well worthwhile. Thank you. Now, if you still have a few extra minutes left in your calendar, Sarah's going to tell you all the wonderful things SWIM's offering, aside from, we did mention the race, equity, and inclusion training, which I think is going to be amazing. But there's lots of other stuff. We can use up every spare minute you have in your day. So I'm going to let Sarah share those.
SWIM is the statewide Indivisible Michigan. I'm proud to be part of that group. One of the things that they're offering that's wonderful, I've been to already, are their civics lessons. They're a 20-minute civics lesson. The next one's on April 22nd. They're at 6 o'clock in the evening. They have a speaker. This one coming up is called Civics Lesson to Keep You Afloat, the Radical Right in Europe and America. So it kind of ties in also with what the Legislative Action Committee is doing, but just coincidentally. So you can sign up for that. That's available for everybody. Another one that I think will be good that ties in with tonight's speaker is we've all been invited to listen to Peter Sinclair in Leelanau County. He is an independent videographer specializing in energy and climate crisis issues. So I think that would be a good one. Race, equity, and inclusion, REI, we talked about that. That's going to be wonderful. It's going to be every other month starting this Saturday. A lot of us are signed up for that. And then they have monthly, and you'll find it on our website or Facebook, where they'll have somebody from Haley Stevens' office, someone from Gary Peters, and someone from Debbie Stabenow's office to talk with their constituents, answer questions, let us know what's going on. And those are really informative. This next one is tomorrow with Donna Lisinski. She's the House Minority Leader, and that'll be a good one. So we'd love to have everybody join us to any and all. You'll find the links for those calls on the Facebook page or the website. So that's about it.
Yeah, and the ones with the senators, with Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow, are every other month. All of these are with staff, but to be honest, you get way more information out of the staff.
Out of the staff.
I highly recommend going. For me personally, I've gotten so much information from Haley Stevens, field director, Abby May. Really, really great. And that's next week. But yeah, all that information's on the website and in the newsletter and on the Facebook page. I feel like I've got a little loop going here.
Yep.
Moving on, because we're going to run out of time here. Sherry's going to update us again on statewide Indivisible's democracy teamwork.
Actually, I'm going to not do that.
Oh, okay.
Really don't have that firmed up yet, unfortunately. I can tell you
You're really breaking out, Cher.
part of national. Yeah, I can't help that. It's my internet. So it is what it is, folks. I am sorry. Anyway, there will be some postcards coming along. They haven't been finalized yet, but we're going to be asking for your help and need your help in filling out postcards to amplify the good news about the American Rescue Plan. I just want to thank everybody who's making your daily to-dos. We're day 85 out of 100 in the first 100 days of Biden's administration. And if you haven't had a chance or you've been sporadic, jump on it. You got 15 days to go for it. I highly recommend that you just put it on your calendar. Ethan said it, and Gary Peters' representatives tonight said it. And I love it when other people other than myself say it. Making a phone call makes a difference. It's the most direct way that you can make a difference. Easy, easy, easy. They're polite, they're friendly. You just, most of the time you're leaving a message, but it's worth it, because the staffer for Gary Peters tonight said every night Gary Peters sits down and the first email he looks at are the tallies of the phone calls for the day. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that at this point, we were also told the opposition is calling more than we are. So we have to keep letting them know how we stand on these pro-democracy reform issues. We must pass S1, S4, and S51 if we're to set things in the right direction, because all the other things we think are important are not going to happen if we lose democracy, which is basically what's going to happen. We're very concerned about those 39 voter suppression bills in Michigan. S1 and S4 will basically take away a lot of that and make that disappear. So that's why they're so critical that you make these phone calls. If anything, we've laid the groundwork for that. And obviously, it's not going to get done in the first 100 days, but we'll keep you posted after that. And we feel that we've educated ourselves. I know I've learned a lot by writing, putting these things. And Jonathan has already covered where you can find them, so I don't have to say that. But I would again like to give a shout out to Nancy Check, Ellen Gellerman, and Ellie Bukovich for being such a great team and working on these for the past 85 days.
Awesome. And it makes a big difference if our legislators are hearing that we're happy with what they're doing and we support them. And those are the easy calls to make. So let's go for it. Many of the people here worked with Voters Not Politicians a couple of years ago, collected thousands and thousands of signatures. And as you may or may not know, the organization continues on and is focusing on pro-democracy work. And right now is engaging in lit drops, non-contact lit drops, which Janet has already participated in. So I'm going to let her talk about it.
Hi, everybody. So yes, a lot of us were very involved in VNP to get Prop 2 passed. And now I've been contacted by Paul, who is one of the people that was involved in that original part. And they are doing no contact lit drops. We did one in Novi, since that's more convenient for me. It worked the same way as it did before. You have your minivan on your phone. They don't give you paper copies, so you have to have the app downloaded on your phone. And then you get an action ID number. You fill it in, you go pick up in Farmington, you pick the lit you're supposed to drop, and you just go to door. No knocking on the door, no ring the doorbell, nothing. Just put the literature out there for them. They have a bunch of dates. You can see that they have areas like Waterford, Grand Blanc. Brighton was on there. I think it still is. I'm not sure, but Brighton, yeah.
Still, and there are still dates in Novi, I believe. I thought Novi was done, but when I looked, I think there's still dates through the weekend in Novi.
So there's a lot of different, when you just click on it to get more details, and then you scroll through, find a date and a time that works for you. They send you an email that gives you the information about where to go pick up the literature that you're dropping, and it's in Farmington, and you go pick it up, and then you just do your lit drop, and you fill out a little form afterwards saying, how it went and everything. But there's lots of dates. It's super, super easy. No contact or anything like that. Now they also have, and I think this is posted on our Facebook and maybe our webpage, or will definitely be in the newsletter that you get afterwards, that they have, they also need people who, if you don't want to go door to door, are you interested in phone banking, where you call some of the people that the literature has been dropped off at to make a second contact with them? So this is the literature, and it talks about Senate Bill 285, 86, 87, 303, and 310. And it tells exactly what these bills are for. And it talks about contacting your representative. And for me, for Novi, the people I was handing out, it was Jim Remstead and everything. So this is what you would hand out. This is what you put on each door. It's not as well organized as what we did with VNP for Proposal 2, because they didn't have rubber bands and everything like attached. So you could you had to find a way to figure out how to get this onto their door and keep it there.
We did the rubber bands. VNP didn't do the rubber bands. That's why it was so organized.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not as good as what we did, but anyways, it was really easy, straightforward. And if you're looking for something to do, I know we all feel better when we are doing something. Like
and
when
you can get out and have a nice walk all at the same time.
Exactly what we did. I was like, wow, we got a lucky day. It was nice and warm. Took our jackets off, went for a walk, and it was all good.
And they do warn you, if you've done some of the lit drops during the election, these are areas, Brighton, Waterford, that can be a little stretched out. Novi, not so bad. But you know, go as a team, drive and drop kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it's a great way to spend an afternoon.
Yep.
Thanks, Janet.
You're welcome.
And the only other team I heard from Pat Buckner today, just as a reminder that our voter registration team is up and running again. They're moving into education as well, sort of rethinking, because voter registration is dramatically changing our state, even without voter suppression, because high school students will be automatically registered if they have a driver's license. And that was the big thrust of what we did as a team. So if that is a team that you are interested in joining, when I'm done talking about the team, there is a document that I could send you. I'll put my contact in there that outlines the different roles on the team. Or you can just contact Pat and say that you would like to be included on the team. They're looking for more volunteers. And I think we have a whole team meeting a week from Saturday on the 24th, I believe. So if voter registration is a passion for you and it's something you'd like to get involved in more, that would be something to explore. So we also have some other events that are not necessarily Indivisible events, but things that we're supporting in the community. And so we'd like to share those with you before we finish up the meeting. Pat's going to talk about a memorial that's being planned for Memorial Day weekend.
Thanks, Liz. This is Pat again, but you can hear me now. I wanted to share with the group something that's been planned with a small group. Nancy Check has organized with me and Nancy Weeks, Tom Lynch, and also Pastor McMahon. And we've been meeting to plan to have a community memorial to honor those who have died in the last, well, more than a year, really, not only because of the pandemic, but any kind of death that was obviously affected by the lockdowns and the limit on funerals. So we are having a memorial on, let me make the date right, Saturday, May 29th at the park at the amphitheater there. It'll be an hour long. And again, it's to honor those who have died, our loved ones we've lost. And I wanted to let you know, in case you knew of anybody that might want to participate, or if you'd like to participate, it's non-denominational. We'll have a service, a small service. There'll be special reading of the names of those we've lost, and there'll be music and some prayers. It's just a way to honor those in a small way, but hopefully memorial. Thank you. In an honorable way. We've gotten calls. Nancy Check has gotten a couple calls already, and the people seem really thrilled that they'll be able to honor somebody that they have lost. So I have a Gmail account that you can send your not registration, but just let us know if you're able to come. And it's HV Community Memorial, all one word, @gmail.com. It would be nice if we could figure out how many people might be coming, because the village has given us permission to do this, but we do have to honor COVID restrictions. So we will have signs up what they might be at that time with wearing the masks and the distancing. We will follow those rules, but it should be a very kind and sweet service.
Pat, what time was that?
I'm sorry, it's at 7 o'clock.
And we have offered as a group, they're not sure what they need for help or anything, but we've offered if they need people to be able to, help people get parked, be able to make sure the PPE guidelines are followed and all of that, that we may be asking people from our group to volunteer to help out. But
Exactly.
We're waiting to hear from the committee, but we'll get that information to you if that's a need.
Yes, and we have a couple more meetings before the actual date, so we'll know more about what we need, and appreciate that. Thanks.
And I believe Olivia Hubble has an event coming up that she wants to share.
Hello, my name's Olivia Hubble. I'm kind of new. And I decided that I want to do a Pride event in Milford on the first Saturday in June. and I've never done anything like this before, so I'm kind of flying blind. But the plan is to just set up a table. I borrowed a button maker from Fariba Hickinson, and I have a non-binary friend, B. Martin, who is designing the buttons. So we're going to make about 250 buttons to give out. Probably won't give out all of them, but we're going to make buttons to give out. I haven't gotten what I'm going to print out to give out, but I want to give out informational pamphlets and stuff. And I might try to find somebody from the LGBTQ community who would be willing to make that. And if I can't, then I'm going to go to some websites and print off and take from here and there to make a pamphlet. I have a Facebook group called Pride in the Park. It's kind of newer, but it already has about 50 members. And I want to be able to raise money for the Ruth Ellis Center, which is based in Detroit. It's a place that helps LGBTQ youth, especially ones that don't have other resources, like food, therapy, a place to go. They really help out with that, and they're 100% legit. And so I have submitted the documents to get permission to do this. I want to set up the table in the little gazebo that's kind of in the middle of Main Street because the park is already booked out. But it sounded like I wouldn't have a problem getting the table, but they didn't really seem like they wanted to give me the solicitor's permit to be able to ask for donations. So my plan is they told me I should find out by the end of next week. But if they tell me no for the solicitor's permit, I think the best way to go about it would just be to try to get support, talk to the Ruth Ellis Center, and then go back and ask again a little closer to the event. But if possible, if I can get the solicitor's permit, I'd like to ask for donations and maybe even do a raffle and raffle off some jewelry made by LGBTQ people. If I can do that, then I would love to go around and see if any businesses would like to support or donate things to raffle off. And 100% of the money would go to the Ruth Ellis Center. I'm not, obviously I'm not taking any money for myself, but it's all going to the Ruth Ellis Center.
Right.
But I've never done anything like this before, so I'm not really sure what I'm doing.
Well,
I'm sorry, what was your date?
June 5th on Saturday. And it would be an all day. When I requested it on the sheet, I did 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So it's more so as somebody's walking by, not a group of people or anything like that.
Okay.
well, you have a wealth of information and willing bodies here. So just keep us posted and we can promote the heck out of you. It'll go out in our newsletter and our minutes and everything. So this will go out to the rest of our membership too.
Okay.
It's probably 300 people that get the newsletter.
Thank you. Yeah, because I already have about 50 people joined. And I have the link to the Ruth Ellis Center's website in the description. And once I can get things more confirmed, then I can start doing things like raffles and stuff like that. And I think even if Milford tells me no to collecting donations in person, I still want to try to do a raffle and collecting donations at least on the Facebook page. And I'm not really sure how to keep track of how much money I'm raising. So if anybody knows anything about how I can do that and just keep track so that we know like, oh, wait, we raised this amount of money. Yeah, so I don't know how to do any of that.
Facebook has ways to do everything, I'm sure. But if you have a little, when you get closer, like for sure you're a member of our Facebook, you joined our Facebook group, our member group.
Yes. Yep.
So you can submit any kind of a post and we'll just approve it and make sure it goes out on our page too. Like we can amplify everything that you put out there if you just send it to us.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah. We do that for our members for things that support our values, which this definitely does. So,
Olivia, what time did you say on the 5th?
So all day. I think I put 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So it would just be me and maybe maybe two other people sitting at the table. So just like if you're walking through town, get a free button.
You are young. See, like if we were setting this up, there'd be 3-hour shifts. We would have 2 people signing up for a 3-hour shift, but your energy, you'll get it done, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I don't I kind of started it without anybody else,
I think you'll find it will gather steam. It's sort of like when we started Indivisible, we had so many people come up to us who said we had no idea there were people who believed what we believe in this community.
Yeah.
And once you get a role going, I think you're going to be amazed at the kind of support that comes out for you. There's a lot of good people here that will turn out and be supportive.
I really commend you, Olivia, for stepping up and doing this. I think that's that there's a need for this awareness and support in our community, and thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
I have family members who have grown up in small towns where the support was not there for them, and this is important. So
Yeah, I know.
I
people who
applaud
have
you as
really out
well.
of the school systems.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Keep us posted. Are there anybody else in the group that has an announcement or something that they wanted to share before we wrap this baby up? Wave wildly at me or use that little hand raise. Well, then our next meeting is May 12th. And we're hoping, fingers crossed, that really wonderful weather we had a week or so of will be back by then. And we can kind of do a repeat of our postcards and picnic in the park event that we did last year that everybody so loved. Of course, it will all be contingent on what COVID decides to do and what the weather decides to do. But our plan at this point is we've already ordered just stamped postcards. We're going to have stuff there. You can decorate them. You can just write them. But that we get everybody to write a couple, 3 postcards to their state representative and their state senator. You know, when we went into this idea, it's certainly focused a lot on these voter suppression bills, which are kind of at the core of everything that's going to happen in our state. If we lose this, but we will have scripts available, we will have PPE available, you know, everything to make this a safe event. And what we're going to do, hopefully not flood their wastebaskets, but flood their desks with just a whole lot of postcards out of Huron Valley. And so we'll have all the addresses that you need and all the materials that you need. Should weather or COVID not cooperate, we'll switch it to a virtual event and we'll play great music in the background and we'll chat and write some postcards together online. We'll get the postcards to you somehow. So that is sort of our plan moving forward for next month. Stay tuned. We figured it was time everybody wanted to do a little something. And it also would be great to see some faces and make some eye contact that isn't through a screen. So unless anybody has anything else to share, it's a wrap.